Hard convening of today's Finance Committee. If you would, take a minute, look over your minutes from last week, and if there's a motion to approve, we'll entertain.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are adopted. First item on today's general agenda, which appears to be mercifully short. Item number 1, general fund reserve for future improvements, FY21 surplus transfer. Always an upbeat occasion. Who wants to take credit for this one?
Who's doing the cartwheels?
Well, we've already, I think we formally announced this a couple of months ago, and this is to give you the final number as of the audit. And it is, again, a $15 million surplus. When you balance out the minimum fund balance that is going to be required, we'll be recommending a $12.1 million transfer into reserve fund for future improvement. We're also recommending, although the majority of how we would appropriate this or recommend to appropriate will come in the fiscal 23 budget recommendation in August. As the council knows, we're we finalized negotiations for the acquisition of property adjacent to the Tuscaloosa National Airport, and we would recommend $2.52 million. I believe Carlene give us the exact number to go ahead and be deducted from that $12.1 million to acquire that piece of property, so we can begin working towards in the years to come runway extension for the Tuscaloosa National Airport.
Yes, sir, that's correct, and then part of this item is actually going to be the budget revision to completely set aside the transfer and then to also allocate that one piece that is $2.528 million for the purchase of the property.
Okay, so a technical question on the 2.5 for the airport. This is just moving it over. It's not authorizing expenditure, or is it?
It is.
You authorized actually
The
acquisition
expenditure
last week.
previously.
Yes, sir.
on- Okay.
We are closing,
Yes,
Huh?
we're closing Friday.
Okay.
so this is just creating the funding line item for it, but the acquisition approval has already happened.
Okay.
And this has been in alignment with the discussions that we've had on this matter.
All right. Any questions? Earth to Crow. Come in, Crow.
I'm sorry, this officer.
So moved.
I'm second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 1 is approved. Item number 2.
So this is just a quick bond update for the committee. One of the items that we spoke about last week was the addendum possibly for the SRF addition, the 2 or the 3 projects that were under a supplemental SRF application that we kind of got the feeling from the Finance Committee to move in the direction of utilizing that supplemental application award. Unfortunately, literally as soon as I walked out of this meeting, I had an email that said that the state revolving fund was going to be recalculating their offer to us. Unfortunately, the drinking water and the clean water amounts both have been, their allocation funding has been cut. And so they will not be able to award us our full supplemental application. They will be able to award us percentages of it. For example, the drinking water portion was cut by 34%. We had a project of $12 million. That's the UDLA raw water project that we had that we sent through with our application that we thought was awarded. So now instead of getting the full $12 million for that project, we're only getting $7.9 million.
Does the forgiveness percent, does that come with it still, Carly, or not?
They said to make it up to us, what they're offering is to continue with that 1.99% rate, interest rate. However, the debt forgiveness is now going to be tied to the quote, climate and economic justice screening map, of which we do not fall into.
Wow.
So that we are assuming that then that 5% debt forgiveness will probably be reaped on.
So,
Chris, are you our intermediary on this?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
I don't really know. I still don't have an answer. As soon as I got this information, I followed up with them on an email last week asking for an email documentation for basically what they're offering. And of course, representative has been out for a week and a half now. They still don't have a director that's replaced, at SRF and within ADM either, so I haven't really been able to go above her head to find out anything, but from what I understand, the report that they sent us, this was tied to earmarks and taxes and different things, you know, on a federal level. So it was very unexpected, and, you know, this information that we received, I mean, they extended us this offer with the 5% principal forgiveness, and we're pressing us to get an answer on it. They said that they even sent us an email saying that they had gotten their full allocation, and then all of a sudden they got this pulling it back.
The feds are also now really beginning to issue guidance on anything that's been related to or is funded through or by the Infrastructure Act. And as this guidance unveils itself, I wouldn't be surprised over the next few months to see this occur. One day you think you may fall into an eligibility bracket, the next day that may change. This will smooth out in the next 6 months. I do think over the next 5 years, as the appropriations for water and sewer most likely will roll through ADM and SRF, is my understanding, that we'll have another bite at this apple.
So one opportunity that I think we would like for the committee to kind of give us some guidance on is what we can do is go with the allocation that they are offering to us whenever that does happen, you know, fully and sign on that dotted line. And then whatever we have as the missing piece, we roll back into our bond issue. You know, as of right now, that's looking to be about another like $8 million that we would put back into the traditional bond issuance. That would again, that we're talking about moving forward with on, like with Mr. Garrison. We could either do that, or we could put the entirety of the SRF supplemental allocation into the bond issue. That way we would know for sure where the funding was coming from and when. But really, we kind of have these options in front of us.
Wouldn't you, I mean, your recommendation, I mean, I would think you want to take the 1.99 money.
I think it's most advantageous.
So if we
did
do
the
that.
quick beer math in her office yesterday.
Yeah,
And essentially, instead of 24 at 199 with 5 forgiven, we're down to 15 at 199
15.5 at
with
199.
nothing forgiven, additional admin costs, which we calculated should already be covered by our existing contract with them.
We have a
And
budget
then,
line item for that already.
You know, comparing that to what Mr. Garrison's latest snapshot was at $3.99 we're looking at on the bond.
4%.
So as tempting as it would be to tell SRF to take a hike,
You can't do
the
that.
numbers, I think, still.
You need to probably take, I would think, what they're offering, as much as we can put to that.
Well,
It sounds like.
And you know, there's twofold here. There's definitely what's most advantageous for the taxpayers. That's like that 1.99% versus the 3.99%. There's also the added layer of annual budgeting and annual, you know, funding and cash flow, which we kind of have done some quick math on. And you know, if we were to do the differing routes between putting it all into the traditional bond versus taking the SRF portion that we do have available, it's like a $10,000 to $15,000 a year difference between those two of annual budgeting requirements. So it's really a negligible amount. Based on the 20-year the 20-year amortization on SRF versus the 30-year bond issuance.
Is it to our advantage? We're 10,000, whatever, something better off by doing that?
I would advise yes that it is.
Come up
But-
with SRF.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you're paying off your mortgage in 20 years, not
20
30,
years,
and your
correct.
$10,000, you say a year?
A year more, $10,000 to
just a little
$15,000 a year
So
more.
neighborhood drainage.
Right.
So by doing that, then it would have the net effect of lessening roughly $8 million we will not need out of the traditional bond issue for water.
Well, no, we need
Well,
to
it's
add $8
adding
million
the-
into the
the
traditional bond issue.
remnant.
You're gonna have to add
Adding
the
the
difference
15
to the
that you're not
bond
getting from the state, right? You gotta add that.
We were at 52, so now we're
We're
gonna
at
be,
Add
60.
15 and a half, right?
Yeah.
The 15.5 is what we would be getting
Yeah.
from SRF.
I'm sorry.
So the 8 million
8
would go
million
back
more.
into.
So you're basically
It's
doing
the
the 60.
60 million.
60 million with water and sewer, is that right?
No, it'd be like
No, it's
37.
37,415, so we would.
15 over there.
Okay, that's right.
Right.
But it's 8 million more than we talked about.
I have this breakdown. It does not have, Mr. Garrison sent us last night some updated, run numbers. So like the debt service amount's not correct, but you can kind of see the breakdown of where the debt would sit, if that's helpful. Just don't look at the whole.
And what, today, you don't actually need anything other than a head nod on indicated direction, right?
That's correct, sir.
Matthew, where? Norman?
I think we should do the
I'm
SRF.
leaning to the
Yeah.
SRF.
I mean, I think that makes more sense.
It does.
Because we are gonna ultimately save a little money, but we're also
We'll
cutting
spend a
10
lot of
years.
money.
We're cutting 10 years of payments off too, which is,
Y'all talked to Barry Staples about
Good.
SRF and the concern about the acceleration clauses that are in their documents. I think they need to know a little bit about that.
So, do you wanna go through or do you want me to go through? So the, some of the acceleration, issues with SRF is that, accelerated payoffs under the state revolving fund are, on a different, like, there is no necessarily pre-payoff penalty after a certain period with your bond payments. And under the SRF, there's a different, it's a different type of animal. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared to talk about this.
I'll be
So
happy to
is
do
it-
if you want me to.
Lee, is there a penalty for paying the debt off early?
So,
Or an imposition of an early payoff if certain things happen?
it's not necessarily that. When you do a warrant in Alabama, like y'all do traditionally, if you defaulted, they cannot make you pay off the balance, okay? Period. They can seize the funds in the trust account, and then you work something out with the bondholders, right? Well, with a bank note, a lot of times, and with these SRF loans, there are acceleration clauses in the documents that say if you default, you gotta pay off the whole balance. And here's my point on this. S&P has been drilling borrowers on this issue in the last year. Going through it, Barry's going through it right now with Prattville. He's trying to get some things negotiated out with y'all current SRF loans. Because if S&P or any other rating agencies hone in on acceleration clauses in any loans that y'all have, they basically are then looking to your balance sheet to say, well, if you did default, do you have the cash to pay off the acceleration? So it's more of a rating agency issue, and mainly with S&P. Barry is
If
not
we were
happy
to
with it.
default on an SRF loan, wouldn't credit rating be the least of our worries?
I totally agree with you.
Okay.
I mean, I argued with them on another client that, you're basically talking about a city going bankrupt. Yes?
I think what Lee's saying though, and the rating agencies, as we have seen, are discovering new ways to look at things. I think what he's saying is not this would happen if you default, but the rating agency is potentially saying we're going to consider this an extra liability because it would be instantly due if you defaulted.
Correct.
Not
But it's a liability that would have to be factored at some so incredibly low probability.
no, I agree.
I
As
agree
we
with
discussed
you.
with some of the
It's just-
overly cautious views that
Okay.
they're taking.
I think what you're seeing too is rating agencies are a little spooked by the influx of money into government altogether over the last 2 years because of COVID. And so if you just take the snapshot of where most governments are, for the most part, they're gonna have some reasonable healthiness look to them. So they have to create metrics by which they can judge you at this point in time. And to kind of bring that mean down, you go and find things like, okay, we'll look at your acceleration that's involved in the case you default. Now, if you default, it sounds ridiculous, but they're saying, okay, that now we can, even though you look good, because you have a loan that if you default, now you're gonna have to accelerate your payments. That's a knock against you. It's kind of what we've seen, recently with Moody's. So I think that's what we're just gonna expect from the rating agencies for the next few years, because I don't think any of them want a repeat from 2008 and 2009 where they, I guess, undervalued or overvalued.
Right. I think to add to that is that, I wanna be clear, 1.99% money is something you need to consider.
I think we're
All we're
splitting hairs.
saying is if we go with SRF on another tranche of money, one of the things that Barry wants to do is have every single one of y'all's acceleration clauses removed from all of your SRF loans that are out there from the past and into the future. Because it's not just an issue with the city of Tuscaloosa, it's an issue with every single SRF loan that has acceleration clauses in it.
Do
And
we
they don't
know-
need to be in there.
Do we know if they have the flexibility to remove
They've
those?
said no the other day on the Prattville deal, but if Prattville gets a ding from S&P, they're gonna go back to SRF and say, you're gonna cause this city to have a ding in their credit rating on all their other debt because you're not willing to remove an acceleration clause, which frankly is overbearing. So we can use it to our advantage. We go back to them, get this 15 and say, all right, we're gonna do this, but y'all need to take this clause out because it could eventually hurt your ratings on your general warrant debts. Does that make sense?
And people are gonna be more leery to use, or less likely to use them in the future.
Because of that clause, I agree.
Okay, last question. Chris, are the climate and the economic justice maps the same thing, or are those two different products?
It's just the full name of the map.
Huh?
It's the full name of the mapping system.
So it's a map that factors in climate and economic justice?
And there's areas shown
All right.
linked to the sentence.
All right, Ms.
Yeah.
Standers, I think you have a directional
Yes,
nod
sir. Thank
from the
you.
Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one
Yeah,
quick
sure,
question?
absolutely. Sorry.
Based on this, I meant to ask this earlier, this transfer and the stuff's going on, our total reserves are still at 35-ish million, or is it a little less than that? 30? Is it-
It's in the
Is that-
packet, but yes, I can pull that number.
It is, it's about the 34,
34 million still?
it's the 17 for general fund, and
Plus
then
the-
17 for general fund.
Okay.
RFI.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant just in the RFFI.
no, I'd say both, well, under our new rules, right, our new rules was 20%,
It'll
right?
be the,
But the-
yes, it'll be
Coming
the
out of the
34
budget.
million just in the general fund.
Yeah, okay,
But it'll still be the same.
yeah, it'll be 20% of that 172,
Yeah.
922, which is,
It's 10% here, 10%
yeah.
Well, that's what it was as of 9/30/2021, which is is what this picture is as of. Because we have done the new code as of 9/30/22, it will all be
It'll be-
20%
it would-
under,
Be 20% of that 172,
Right.
922,
under general
69.
fund alone, yes. sir.
Yeah, yeah, Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I.
Thank
can-
you.
Sure.
Thank
bring
you.
up- And I'm gonna ask Mr. Garrison to also, add on to it. We're really beginning on the 2022 A and B, running up against the time clock of having to make a decision. There's likely gonna be a large issuance from within the state at the end of this month that's gonna influence, very large issuance, that's gonna influence some factors. We've got a critical piece of infrastructure that we are actually prepared to go to bids on, that I think you're aware of. We've also got, planning on University Boulevard Corridor Project, Tennis Center, that's part of this bond issue. We're gonna have to begin moving or fall behind, and I'm especially concerned on some of the water and sewer projects. I do think, though, that we're in a position, or the council will be in a position next week to make a decision. The assessments that come back should be ready by Monday of next week, is my understanding. And maybe-
Except S&P.
Except S&P, which we were not likely going to be using for the 22 A and B. If we don't, then we start to get into late June. We're gonna be competing in a bad market. We get into 4th of July. Then we'll already be through bids on the critical piece of infrastructure that is paramount to our water delivery service in South Tuscaloosa. And we've extended that project off as long as we can at this point. So we would really ask that we get to that point of decision making so we can get into the market and be ready to go. So Lee, you want to give them an update on?
No, I think you nailed it. I talked to all the finance committee members and you yesterday, just to brief y'all on this, sent the email to y'all. The bottom line is, we expect Fitch and Moody's assessments Monday, of which we will forward to the council as soon as we receive. I get a call at 9 a.m. Central Time. I know from Chris, and I think Kevin's gonna follow after, and then they'll send me the email with the document. I'll forward it to all of y'all. Plan to come up here next Tuesday. Y'all had a night to look at it. Bottom line is that if y'all like what you see on the assessments for the 2022 A and B from Fitch and Moody's, our professional opinion is that we get an answer from this committee Tuesday week, next Tuesday. I emailed both of them the updated POS Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night of next week. They will flip the assessment to a public rating by Friday or Monday the 20th. That gets published nationally as a public rating, and then we sell the issuance on the 23rd. That would be an ideal scenario. If we go into the week of the 27th, we're gonna be competing with a major issuance that's coming from the state of Alabama, and some other issuers, and then you get to the 4th of July, and in our business, they work hard and they play hard. I mean, they take long vacations, and nothing really happens as you get close to the 4th of July, and really the week of the 4th of July. And the market is favorable right now. We're at 3.99% as of yesterday, which is $57,500 per million. I also ran, just as a hypothetical, just so y'all can put this in your calculus, and I'm not expecting this next week, but who knows? But if there is a notch with Moody's or Fitch, one below, the interest rate difference is 0.07%, which is basically next to nothing. You're in a category right now, and I expect y'all to remain in a credit category that is elite. And the bond buyers that we sell to just don't differentiate too much between a AAA and a AA plus. So that was emailed to the finance committee. I'll be happy, Mayor, if you want to forward that email to the rest of the council that I sent last night.
And every month we continue to wait, we're facing 1 to 2% increase in the cost of construction as well.
Also, the Fed is going to raise interest rates 50 basis points, I think, next week. The rates that I sent y'all last night has a lot of that baked into it already. But they're also planning to do 50 in July, possibly 50 the next month. So the market is going up.
Everything's going on. I'm worried about just having the capacity of people to do any work based on what we just dealt with today. I mean, and what does that make the prices look like on all this stuff? I hope that,
Some
It's
of these,
scary.
Yeah,
you gotta
it is.
remember though, many of these projects don't sequence out. It's not as you flip a switch and in August,
True.
every project goes out. But, you know, whether it's Benjamin Barnes YMCA, the Tennis Center, University Boulevard project, Snow Hen Park, the Ed Love, raw water booster station. You know, I'm being asked, when are these projects let to go? When can we go acquire services from council members, certainly from our staff? And we're at a point, especially with our critical water infrastructure. I will urge you, we cannot wait much longer. I don't, I won't pretend this, now, I will say with University Boulevard Corridor project, that's another project we have to begin putting money into circulation with that project. That's a grant project. I just want to, again, I would not be doing my job if I didn't make you aware of the consequences of delay. We have to make a decision, or if we wait until July, you could be hit by much higher interest rates, and you will be hit by higher construction prices on the water and sewer projects. Because if we go to bids and then we don't take the bids, the next round's gonna be much higher. And we've been dealing with this issue, and, since I think January, we began these discussions with the council, and so we've got to come to a conclusion on this, one way or the other.
But you believe we have to come to a conclusion on this under a 1 or 2 week time compression deadline?
I think, Mr. Busby, if we lose a critical piece of infrastructure in the next, because once we go to bids, it'll be another month and a half to 2 months before we truly begin getting under construction. If we wait another 2 weeks, then we're into 4th of July, which means we've really waited 4 weeks. Then we hope to get into the market, but by that time the Fed has already gone up 50 basis points. We'll also have another month of inflationary costs that's gone on by. We also have commitments to the community on these scope of projects that have been approved by the council, adopted by the council, gone to New York with the city council. And every month we wait, this pricing issue is not going to get any better. And ultimately, the whole council needs to be aware, because I'm not certain the entire council understands what it means to continue to wait on this and not move ahead with the authorization of the 22A bond issue. And if we wait into July, your prices, again, you're just going to you're going to deal with increased cost of both inflation and interest rates. Right now, we're under 60,000 per million. We're at the budgeted amount we put in a year ago for the debt service. We're there at what was adopted by the council. So I think that's a reflection of the good work by Mr. Garrison and our entire team. But we will blow past that if we wait any longer.
Well, I think we disagree on the certainty that a delay into July is a given of a higher interest rate cost. I don't agree with that. If we had issued in April or May, would our cost have been higher or lower?
I have to go back.
It would have been higher. Rates have come down.
Right.
So I don't
Stabilized.
dismiss that is a possibility, but I'm not aware that it's a given. And a Fed rate hike, if it is known in the markets, is priced into the market rates. So I'm open to listening. There's 7 people that gotta listen, but we've come a long, hard way, and I'm just not aware. I mean, Lee called me the other night to let me know, but I was not aware that this thing had been compressed into it's gotta be this week, not next week, or this week, not 2 weeks from now.
Well, I'll give you my perspective.
Okay, that's why we're here.
We've gone through a series of beginning in January, in nearly every finance committee over the last 4 to 5 months, this has been a topic for discussion. The projects have been vetted, the projects have been approved. We have done hundreds of hours of staff time work to bring us to this point. And once we came back from New York, I think we did the very responsible thing of digging in even further. We're coming to the end of the road where the investment banker that we've hired has told us that it appears next week that we will be in the range of 3.99%. That will put us at 57,000 and some change per million on the bond issue is what we actually came to the table with, I believe, in January. Again, I may have my date off on that. Since April, since going to the market, We've always assumed that we were gonna move forward with the 2022 bond issue. Work has continued on all these projects, especially the critical infrastructure projects, that we need to go ahead and get going. But we also have projects like Benjamin Barnes Branch YMCA, the University Boulevard Corridor Project, the Tennis Center, Snow Hen Park, that have been promised to the community, delivered, it said to deliver at appropriate time. Without any additional funding for those, we can't shepherd those projects on through. I think the discussion, I don't think most of the council realizes that there may be a feeling, and maybe I'm wrong, of not moving forward with this bond issue. And then if that's the case, I'm in budget right now, and then I have to scrap, I've got to go back to the drawing board on 2 months of work already. We're running out of time. And we've been talking about this since January. And we have got to make a decision. I say that respectfully, but I don't know how much is really going to change. And if we get into July, we know what we have now. And it's good. And it's really good compared to what the last 2 months have been. Mr. Busby, again, I don't know what else we can hope to gain by a few more months of discussion of this.
Well, I don't know who's contemplating a few more months. I'm not. I mean, we just spent $75,000 out of council funds to get feedback from the rating agencies on the impact of these contemplated bond issues on the city's credit standing. And I want to see them. I'm not talking about months. I want to see the product that we paid for.
Oh, I'm not dismissing that and have been supportive of it. But I think it's important to know there is a clock ticking on multiple fronts, and especially with critical pieces of infrastructure, that we have waited as long as we can possibly wait, and I'm very concerned if we go much longer on this. But I will also say that I feel, based off what Lee shared last night, if the assessment comes back and we're at 3.99, we're at the budgeted amount that we actually started our discussions with, I don't know why we would gamble anymore with these projects that have been vetted, gone through dozens upon dozens of meetings. Again, that's my perspective. But I think you need to know the consequences of all of these things. When Benjamin Barnes gets holed up, that's not on us. If University Boulevard Corridor Project, and I'm saying that these things drag out into late July, August, if our raw water pumping system goes down, if the tennis center gets delayed, those are consequences. And what I don't want the council coming back is saying, well, why didn't the administration let us know these were consequences? I am just trying to paint a picture of where we are and what are the real life impacts of this if we go into July, and let's say rates go up in July and we say, well, we want to wait to August. I don't know when does this train end?
Walt, to your point though, remind me initially, before any of this stuff happened, were we not talking about going to the market in the month of June? When we started all this conversation back a million months ago? It seems like years ago, but
Our first initial blush of a timeline was, that we would be in the market actually this week. Our appeal process for the validation ends today, and so we could go into the market tomorrow if we needed to. This is timeline.
But we're not really that far behind what we talked about in January. I think the issue to me,
in April.
or in April, we were gonna go to the market about this time, right? You just said that.
For validation, we were planning this week, yes.
Okay. Well, personally for me, I don't think the issue is about this bond issue. I think the issue is how this bond issue and everything else we're planning over the next 2 or 3 years, how does that affect the credit of the city? And I think that, I think we're being wise. I don't think anybody's talking about delaying this to July or to August or any other time. We asked for this information. Carly just said that we would have been going to the market about right now. We're not. I believe we'll make a decision up or down shortly. I would think in the next, probably if we need to make it next week, I think we'll all have the data that we need to have a big discussion about that.
And that's what we're asking for. And I agree with you. I think getting this data was wise. I think knowing what the picture should be moving forward. My concern is that if we go to next week, then we're at the 20th. And then if we don't have a decision by the 27th, we do not meet on the 5th. So then we're into the 12th. And so then we're entering into a market that we don't know. Maybe it is better. But the 22A was, my understanding, was never in doubt. And then it's been my understanding that, well, let's wait on the 22A. And if that is the decision of the majority of the council, that's the decision. But that means that, especially the critical water and sewer projects, I've got to come up with another recommendation to the city council, because there's a bid that's going to be out there that we
So I
got to move.
don't, Mayor, I wasn't aware that we were holding up a critical water and sewer infrastructure project for lack of funds. We are?
Yes, sir. It was part of it's been part of your briefings. It's the Ed Love raw water booster station. And my concern really wasn't until this past week or so, where it was my understanding that a decision was thinking about moving into July, that I've become concerned. I am very supportive of this process, of the analysis, and what you said, what's trying to be accomplished. I'm just worried that if we get past, especially even into the 27th, then we're going to be competing with the state of Alabama. That concerns me on a mega issue. But the 20th would be a good time for us to be able to move and go forward and keep everything moving. Once we get past that, I'm worried between concerns on pricing, construction prices going up, and then grant requirements, and then just the cost of construction continue to go up at 1% to 2% a month, what that could mean for the city council.
I'm real concerned about the grant requirements, because good gracious, this University Boulevard corridor project's got to get going.
Let me ask a question. Since we talked about meetings that have been canceled, what is the legal process for us if we have to call a called meeting?
You can't discuss, depending on specifically where you were and what you need to talk about. There are serious restrictions on what you can do at the special call meeting. Now, ultimately, we have what we need, and I think y'all saw the email from Mr. Staples this week. We have what we need to go into the market. But we need to know when we go into the market, when we get out of the market, we're gonna close the deal, right? And that's the real issue.
And Mr. Busby, I'm not going into the market without the support of the city council. I mean, that'd be horrible for our relationship, and would never want to do that. And that's why I've been very supportive of the process. But yesterday, when Lee and I talked about the timeline, I told him I felt like I needed to share with you the liabilities that are out there on the horizon if we don't start moving these things, because I am becoming very concerned about it, and I at least wanted the council to have on its horizon the understanding that delay just isn't simple as delay. These things can stack up pretty quickly on us.
I thought we were heading towards a late June sale.
Well,
And, hang on, and that's mentally what I've been working towards. and the emergence of a prison bond issue and the holiday schedule of the investment banking community don't make me feel compelled to compress that. That's where I am on it. I mean, there's 6 more folks, and they may all have different ideas, but if there's, can we decouple A and B if we're holding infrastructure up?
You don't wanna do that.
I don't want to do that, but if we're, I don't see us needing to do that. I thought we were on track for where I thought we were going, which was after some moving here and there. I thought we were looking at the end of June. And I'll continue to listen, as I'm sure the other 6 members will, to everything we need to hear. Or you're not looking for anything from us today, right?
No,
This
sir.
is just an awareness.
No, sir. It's, again, if we can get clearance on the 20th or sometime that week, I would feel better. I know, and Lee reminds me of this, again, there's I think it's Monday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the days of bond sales. So you also have that window too. I just, I see the time clock ticking. If I had to prioritize my concerns, and I will leave it at this, I know Mr. Feld is ready to get to his meeting, is one, we're out on bids, and we're going to out on bids on a major project, and I want to sequence us to get those bids in, be able to pay for it, get that project underway. Number 2 is that I'm worried that July could be higher interest rates. Who knows? All I know is what I read and see on Wall Street Journal and see on CNBC. Could be wrong, could be right. I mean, but I don't think we're at where we were budgeted to be, and I just want to take the bird in the hand. 3, I worry about the prison, issuance going out, and what does that do to us? May not do anything. Lee knows that better. And number 4 is just the inflationary cost every month of these projects, especially the big water and sewer. The Elevate projects, not that they're small, but smaller compared to the
Water and sewer is very
Yeah.
important.
And that's the bigger one for me. So again, I mean, it wasn't to say today, and if I came across the way that, I apologize. That wasn't what I meant. I meant, next week getting a green light, and even if we need to, when's the 27th? What day is that on?
It's on Monday.
That's the following Monday.
Yeah, it's a Monday.
So that's the week of the 27th. So it'd have to be. What's today? I've been so confused on.
Today's the
It's
6th, 7th. Yeah, the 7th.
So the 14th, we get it next week.
So we'll get it Monday of next week. I'll send it all to y'all that night. Tuesday, we discuss it. The original 2 that we went to New York on, if they don't change your ratings on 22A and B, or they don't indicate that they will change them, my suggestion to y'all is to flip those to a public rating and go to the market the week of the 20th and sell on the 23rd. Wait for S&P, great, we'll look at it, review it, but it's not gonna add any value to your sale, in my opinion, and our professional sales desk opinion, at all. And it costs you at least possibly 2 weeks in the market, because you don't want to be in the market the week of the 27th, when what our sales team has said.
The next
And then
week's
you get to the
before.
4th of July, people are out for the 4th of July, then all of a sudden you're approaching the next Fed meeting, which is not baked into the rates right now. So that's my professional opinion. It's not any council member that's talked to me, or mayor, or staff, anyway. That is what we think at Fraser and Air.
And I think that would be doable, Mr. Busby, based off, I think, your goals too.
Okay, let's see what we get back Monday. Anything else, Mayor? Matthew?
No, good.
Okay, is there a, Mr.
Motion.
Fail?
Motion to
I'm
adjourn.
ready in 1 minute.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.